Hi, everybody. I am Rick DiClemente, and this is Astrology Unplugged, where we talk a lot about astrology. It's not a course from A to Z. It's more of a chit-chat. And about once a month, we have intriguing guests on. Tonight, I'll be focusing on some things in Donald Trump's chart, even though I've done complete exposés on him on YouTube, which you can see, and evenings on him before. But I want you to get down to understanding what's at the center of this. And you got to keep in mind here that the head of a family, whoever's the head of the family, head of a corporation, that person's chart affects them and it affects everybody in the corporation. And if you're the head of a country, it affects the entire country. And if that country is the head of the whole world, this one chart is affecting the entire world. Now, the other charts still have power, there's no doubt, but I'm going to take my time with this tonight because I want you to follow me, because what we're heading towards is analyzing Mr. Trump's Venus next to Saturn in the sign of Cancer. And I believed all along that that's been the story, and that's what's happening. I'm going to explain some other points to you. I don't know how you sit there every week like this. I'm just assuming that some of this goes in, because I think you're getting. I can't quantify, but I think you're getting. I don't have to remind you about the recent absurd episode 6,000 of what he just did in Helsinki. So I don't have to remind you about that. Let's get into his chart. Now, you okay? All right. I'm going to show you his chart. I'm going to start by muting everybody because I'm hearing a lot of background. Okay, that'll be better. Now, in his chart, there's some debate about his birth because we see him born on June the 14th of 1946. I want to make sure this is recorded. It is recording. Good. 1946, and the debate is not the birthday. The debate is obviously the birth time. And even with the debate about the birth time, it's not very bad. This is the chart most people use, where the Mars has just risen. The planets rise up over the horizon, and Mars and Leo is placed there amongst what most people study. Some people have Mars a little higher, some a little lower. For most cases, it's not that critical. To start with, when you understand Trump, you need to understand what a Gemini is like. And I'm going to be going back and forth to that page. Now, by no means is he a typical Gemini. Donald Trump is the imperfect storm at the perfect time. When you are a Gemini male, you are usually lighthearted, change the subject, talk about this, talk about that. You're known for being evasive because you don't like going deep into things. So you like to go across the board. You like to learn a little bit about everything. I mean, he was asked what his favorite book in the Bible was, and he couldn't think of one. Then he bullshit his way out. Okay, so you do see sometimes the dark side of Gemini and Sag, which is the opposite side, that they like to be evasive and evade answers and change the subject. That's a very Geminian thing. And it's not their fault. Gemini is not made to go deeply into subjects. Now, there are Geminis like Donald or David Hawkins, and like, who's the guy that interviewed on PBS?
Bill Moyers.
Yeah, Bill Moyers, yeah. So, of course, there are very, very deep, brilliant Geminis, too. But for the most part, Geminis are very lighthearted and they stay on the surface. Now you throw in the fact that he's got the moon in Sag. Now, you've got 12 possible moons for any Gemini could have a moon in any one of the 12 places. Well, when you got the moon in Sag, now you really complicate things because their downsides are so similar and their upsides are so similar. But now you've got somebody who really has a really strong tendency to evade, change the subject, used car salesman. So you put a moon in Sag with a sun in Taurus, it's a little different. You put a sun in Gemini with a moon in Capricorn, it's a little different. But you happen to put the sun and moon in two places that augment each other. So we see why he's fascinated, addicted to the media, wants to know everything that's happening as soon as he wakes up with CNN and with his morning Fox report. Now, what that tells you is the person is very communicative. And it doesn't surprise me whatsoever that he would end up on his own television show, like it or not. The next thing I want you to notice is this. Hello, Karen. Okay. In his chart, I just looked up, he's got this very peculiar, very special Jupiter conjunction to Chiron, conjunct to Neptune. This stellium of 3 planets was in 1945, 46. It's very special. It's very, very charming. We just looked up some people a while ago. We saw Neil Young has this. We saw Van Morrison has this. We saw several actors have this. Very charming triplicate of planets. And when you put these three together, on the good side, they can be very, FDR had this. You can be very, very charming, or you can be a big-time bullshitter. You can use this tremendous social charisma mixed in with all. Remember, we're mixing everything all together. Then we go up here, we see Uranus is at 17, and the Sun is at 22. And Uranus is at 17, and the Moon is at 21. So we got the Sun and Moon. He's born during an eclipse, within 1 hour of an eclipse. Then Uranus was involved. So when you got the Sun and the Moon and you got Uranus, now you got 3 planets that are wild. The last thing a Sun in Gemini needs is to be encouraged by Uranus. And the last thing a Moon in Sag needs to be is encouraged by Uranus. So you got a Sun and a Moon that are both encouraged by Uranus. This makes him unpredictable. He brags about being unpredictable, and I can see his point. I've got Sun opposite Uranus, but he can do nothing else. He's not being unpredictable because he's got this under control. He's just changed the subject, roll the dice again before they stop. Let's roll the dice again before they stop. Just complete chaos is his way. Now, there's no doubt about it. You could have Sun, Uranus, Moon, and be an absolute genius, especially being born during an eclipse. He could very well be a genius. But the picture's just building. You got to be very patient as you build these stories, and this is why I don't see Melody here yet. This is why the great advantage of doing charts by hand in the old days was really good, because you put one planet on the chart at a time, and you went, oh, look what that does. Then you put another planet on, figure out where and draw it on. Oh my God, did that change things? Well, now when you see, boom, all 12 points at once, it's a whole different world. It's understandable, but it's you don't appreciate all the pieces as well unless you really get down and study. But you see somebody now who's very, very skittish. He's very prone to being off the wall, unorthodox, unpredictable, and without a doubt, because of that Jupiter, this is this chart of an opportunist. Still, he could be a hell of a humanist. He could be very generous with his money. The fact that he's a millionaire does not surprise me. Those 3 planets in Libra are wonderful social tools. So we keep building and building and building. Okay. Sometimes, like when he first came out with this solution of let's give guns to the elementary teachers. That's a Uranian kind of idea, like comes out of nowhere and everybody goes like, what? What did he say? What? That's the Uranus conjunction. Sometimes flashes of brilliance come from Uranus. Sometimes they're really way out, and sometimes they're brilliant. Yeah, I mean, I don't care what you say. You don't get as far as this guy's gotten unless you got some brilliance. You just don't. Anyhow. Let's go back to the chart. So we see the Uranus is 5 degrees away from the sun. The Uranus is opposing the moon. We see the Mercury is in Cancer, and the Mercury is at 8 degrees, and it's square to Neptune, and it's square to Chiron. Well, when Mercury is in Cancer, it makes you very sensitive mentally, and you can pick up the vibes. But when Mercury is square to Neptune, it's usually pretty problematic. Why? Because you tend to live in castles in the sky mentally. I got to push one of the buttons on my 27 remotes here. Okay. Mercury Neptune is somebody with a tremendous imagination, and the Mercury is already in Cancer. So water signs don't take much to make them more intuitive, because they are the intuitive signs. But you have a tendency to live in castles in the sky and believe it. We sure see evidence of that. A lot of times when I see this with a client, I see two parents who didn't give the child much recognition, and then the kid had to spend his life in the closet with his coloring book and a flashlight. So we work from there. So now we're starting to see that the chart's not going to be a winner. We're starting to see that there's no way the chart's going to be able to make it through all these problems. You've got too much instability with Sun, Moon, Uranus. You got the wonderful triplet down there in Libra. You got the Mercury square Neptune. You got the Sun next to Uranus. We're building a picture. And what you should do as an astrologer is you work with pencil and you let these things move you left and right as you put these planets on, as you start to study. Then if you start to get all this weight pushing you this way, you know the chart's going to be this way. I don't have any other way to explain it. One of the best things you can do in here is hear the stories, but get to know red, get to know blue, get to know green, get to know the 12th house, get to know Mars. Keep studying the pieces. Keep studying the pieces. That's what gets you better at being able to combine it all. Now, yes, it sounds like a recipe. And you add a little bit of pepper and start sneezing. I could count on Erica. All right. Now, one of the really tremendously significant parts of this chart is the Mars is in Leo and it's rising. It's rising. When a planet is near the angle, it is really big. This Mars may as well be drawn this big. That's how big its influence is, because it's rising. There's nothing near the midheaven. There's nothing near the descendant. There's nothing near the nadir. This is the most angular planet. Planets near the angles are a big deal. Traditionally, his chart is ruled by the sun, which is the sun up here in Gemini, because the sun rules his rising sign of Leo. But he could be born 30 seconds later and have Virgo rising, and then you would have Chiron rule his chart, which I don't doubt at all. But the Mars and Leo is the subject here, because Mars and Leo is, I said I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it. I said I was going to build the wall, I'm going to build the wall. It might be a 6-inch high brick around my backyard, but I will build it. And he could build a 6-inch bricks around his backyard, convince himself, because of the Mercury square Neptune, that he built the damn wall, so what's the problem? But that's not even the problem with Mars and Leo. Mars and Leo, remember, you're texting me questions and I really can't answer. So you may want to save them for later. Remember, Mars and Leo. Leo is an energy that's about how dare you belittle me? How dare you not show me respect? They're very hyper Leo energies to whether they're being respected or not. And a lot of times, they're not being disrespected, and they feel like they are. But the problem with Mars and Leo is, I will show you. I will show you. And we see this with him. We see this. You got fires going on here, bombs going on here, riots going on here. He's chirping away at somebody with a little tiny insult on Twitter. And that's because the Mars and Leo, he has found that his dignity has been offended. And so he's going to fight back. He won't let something slide. And he thinks that's noble, and he thinks that's presidential, and he could not be further from the truth. One of the really large problems, and I've said it from the beginning, of a Gemini is in a lot of ways, not always, but in a lot of ways, they belong in a sandbox. And you hear this all the time about him being in a sandbox. Let me explain what that means. I got a lot of friends. Most of my male friends, like Lenny Bud and other people, are Geminis, and they're just really playful, and they're really easy to get along with, and you get deep with them, and they're not very comfortable. But if you stay light and bouncy, they're comfortable. Now remember, Gemini men are really different than the women. The women are much more critical, much more tear you up with their tongue. Gemini men are much more laid back. But when you take them out of the sandbox, they're usually, unless the rest of the chart supports it, they're usually really uncomfortable. They're out of their depth. They can't deal with it. They're not made to. The third sign of the zodiac, Gemini, its charge is to come out of the state of Taurus, stated in that book there, and to start going laterally, learning this. Oh, I learned this. Oh, did you hear this? Oh, look what I could do here. Wow, look at this. Call my friends, learn this, learn that. So unless the rest of the chart can show depth, such as Scorpio planets, Pluto placements, Capricorn energies, or other planets that could make you deeper, then you're just going to keep BSing along the line. Look at him messing around wrestling with these wrestlers. He's just doing the craziest stuff. You know, and if you don't watch it, and I will go out on a limb and just tell you exactly what I have found, and this is certainly not true always, so don't write me letters. When you have one or more planets in Gemini, there's a high degree of possibility for perversion. There just is. And I've seen many Geminis with a lot of planets in Gemini that are just fine. But I've seen a lot of people, I don't care what sign they are, they got one or two planets in Gemini, and it turns into, ooh, we could try that. What about that? And it's this curiosity that Gemini has, compounded by Sagittarian moon, which really believes there are no consequences. The reason Trump gets away with what he gets away with is two or threefold. Number one is his moon in Sag, his Mars in Leo, fire with his sun in Gemini. And when you have a lot of fire, you have a lot of belief in yourself. He gets away with this stuff, and he feels entitled because he believes that he's entitled. And when you believe that you are entitled, and there's no little voice saying in there, you shouldn't do this, when all the voices are, you are entitled, a lot of doors open for you, such as the doors that allow you to drive your own golf cart across the green of your own golf course. You know what other golfers do when they see a golf cart come across the green, and it's over a century-old tradition that you go around the green, and you think of the caddy, and you think of the groundskeeper that's got to repair that. huge fee, and you think of all future golf putts that are going to go like this, and then they're going to go like this, they're going to go like that. He don't care. He's privileged. We're starting to get a picture. We're starting to get a picture. I got a lot to tell you. So I'm taking my time. Now, notice here that the moon is not just in Sag. The moon is all by itself. All the planets here. Forget about Eris. She's just recently been placed on the chart. She spends about 120 years in this whole spot. She's generational, supra-generational. The moon is in a bucket pattern. Now, when the moon, I'm going to sing a song from here. When the moon, no, I'm not. When the moon is by itself, it makes you very lunar. I don't care what your sun sign is, you're going to be very lunar, which makes you kind of Cancerian. Now, you've already got a Gemini who's very Cancerian, so you got the third sign of the zodiac next to the fourth sign. Here's what happens when you are lunar. Did you ever go to your family or see parts of your family or see other parts of other families where everybody has to tiptoe around Uncle Ted? You got to tiptoe around the guy. You got to watch what you say around Aunt Nancy. You just got to watch so they don't explode. And everybody is so careful so they won't explode. So everybody's tiptoeing around this person all the time. And the lunar person knows what's going on. And if the lunar person loses his or her audience, they'll go find another one. Lunar people are expert manipulators and controllers. Guilt trips. Now, they don't all turn out that way. A lot of lunar people can be wonderful, wonderfully warm, the center of the family, very charming. You want to be around them. They're the mama of the hearth of the family. But when the moon is over-exaggerated like this is why he's allowing the whole damn planet is tiptoeing around this guy. Everybody. Everywhere you look, you see this damn red tie. I think we should burn all red ties in the future for everybody. Too damn bad. No more red ties. But on one hand, he realizes it's a crisis, and on the other hand, he realizes getting more attention. But the reason why lunar people are this way, and they're not all this way, but I'm seriously considering a book just about lunar people. This can come from being a Cancer. It can come from your moon placement's too strong, too many planets in Cancer, too many planets in the fourth house of Cancer. It can come about in many ways. Lunar people are very excruciatingly sensitive. That's why most people with Asperger's disease have strong Cancerian traits. And to me, there is no Asperger's. There's just simply a degree of sensitivity on the scale. And the really, really lunar people are just super sensitive. And they just can't handle the crudeness of life. And they tilt because it's just too harsh on them. And I believe they get so sensitive that that's what changes the chemistry inside the body, and then the body is red, and they say the person, voila, has Asperger's. But it all comes astrologically from the moon being too sensitive. So lunar people, no matter what you say, lunar people, Cancerian people need more white glove treatment than anybody else. They just do. That's normal. They need extra care. They need reassurance. They'll constantly, I'm going to be okay. Am I going to be okay? I'll be okay. Am I going to be okay? I'm going to be okay. Okay? They got a constant sense of tremendous fear of being abandoned. That's what it's all about. Remember now, I'm describing the United States to you because we're a Cancer country. A tremendous fear of being abandoned. Side shoot. Almost every time that I hear somebody who's pro-Trump or anti-Trump, Almost everybody I see who's pro-Trump has a strong moon or a strong Capricorn, or both. It is a Cancer Capricorn thing, which is love it or leave it. I don't care what he does, he stays. You don't like to get the hell out. That's a Cancer Capricorn thing because you're threatening my home. God bless America. So back to the moon. Moon people, this is extremely important. Notice here, not just now the moon, I'm telling you how important it is, but notice this. Now we're getting to the story. Here, we have Mercury in Cancer. We have Venus next to Saturn, 2 degrees away from each other in Cancer. Now, we got a problem with big-time Cancer problems. You ever have your image float above Buckingham Palace in a baby diaper? I mean, there must be a lot of people that think you're a baby to do that. Now they're bringing it over here with, what, $42,000 to bring the blimp over here? The point is this. I know a family that had a young Cancer boy that was adopted. And he got into his 16, 17, had a baby with a girl, and it was real obvious in the next year or two that he couldn't handle growing up, take care of little children, so he split and put the burden on the girl. Now everything's fine, but the Cancer stage, as I said in Exquisite Zodiac, is the stage of about 11-year-old. Now, other signs and other planets in your chart will make you much more mature astrologically, etc. But a lot of times the Cancer or the lunar personality just can't handle it. And when they feel screwed, when they feel, that's why I was talking about this other guy I knew, when they feel that they weren't, in other words, this kid took it out on his new father forever and forever because he was adopted. He just would not get off of the wheel of, I was adopted, what was wrong, they shouldn't have done this to me, they shouldn't have done this to me, they shouldn't have done this to me. They shouldn't have done this to me. And their pain is so deep that they feel the revenge is justified. Then you got the mix up here. You got to watch closely. Because then it becomes not so much justification, it becomes a cop-out. I can't do anything because I got a wooden leg. I can't do anything because I wasn't given what I needed. I'm destined to fail. All you people out there are going to be successful. I'm supposed to fail because I didn't get what I needed. Well, the hell with you. You're all going to pay the price. You're all going to pay the price. And we're in the midst of that now. That's what's going on. You're going to pay the price. If you think this has anything to do with Russia or Korea or South America, it's got nothing to do with this. This is all getting back at mama. That's what's happening. Because the other option for a Moon-Saturn person or a lunar person that's really hurt bad is to bounce back, and they don't have the faith that they can. They don't have the faith that they can. So they got to keep blaming and blaming and blaming. And they try and they fail, and then they feel worse, and they run, and they're emotionally distraught. And around the circle you go. It's very hard. Not everybody is like a Scorpio who can stop dead in their tracks and say, that's enough, or a Virgo, and say, that's enough. I'm tough. I'm putting my spurs into the ground, and I'm going to go forward from here and pick myself up. Cancer people, lunar people can't do that. I have seen some lunar people, some Cancer people that are awesomely strong, and bless them. They're wonderful, powerful people. But a lot of them in general have trouble with outside flack. So now you go into this chart. It's going to keep changing as we keep looking at it. The picture is going to get clearer. Now you've got a super agitated Mars and Leo, which means if you touch me, or you mess with me, here I go. You got this super slick tactful bullshitter Libra message going on here. You got this tremendously strong moon here, which is like a giant hole of need. I'm on TV on every network in the world all the time. I want more. Okay? You got this clever, very clever, super clever opportunist. You got this person with a proneness to mental delusions. And what does that leave us with? Venus and Saturn and Cancer. Venus and Saturn at 23, 24, 25 Cancer. Now, this is a tough subject. I don't know why. You can hear me talking to Liza for the past years. I get so many charts of people with Venus next to Saturn. It's unbelievable. Saturn goes around every 28 years. Venus every 9 months. And the unbelievable combination, the commonality of me seeing people with Venus next to Saturn, Venus opposite Saturn, Venus at a right angle to Saturn. It's just unbelievable. Compared to Sun opposite Jupiter or Venus square Mars. I mean, the likelihood of you seeing is unbelievable. Now, what does Venus next to Saturn mean? Let alone the fact that it's in Cancer in his chart. Venus is the planet in you. It's very overrated. It's very misunderstood. Venus is your ability to let love come to you. It's the yin. Mars is the yang. Venus is the yin. Can I let love come to me? Well, if Venus is next to Saturn, we automatically need to question it. Time out. I just did a chart for a young lady. I knew there was going to be explosions. I saw tremendous stuff like this in the chart. At the end of the reading, this happens 1 out of every 200 readings. At the end of the reading, I had to point to her and say, you need to take responsibility for what you have done. You built these walls around you, and you need to start taking bricks down one at a time. I wasn't real critical. You've told me you built the walls around you. You don't trust anybody. Now you've built a jail, and you're in the jail, and you're yelling to get out. So I'm going to help you take a brick down at a time. She hit the ceiling. I knew it was coming. Too much Cancer energy, too much lunar energy. I knew it was coming because I didn't fix it for her. I told her if I could reach to the screen, I would reach through and fix it, but I can't. So having a solution where she had to fix her own problem was not acceptable. So her habit, her manipulative habit was hit the ceiling, hit the fan. She was very pretty, got away with what she wanted, and the call came to an end. Venus, Saturn people commonly believe they're not lovable, or they can be in a situation. Saturn is very tricky. Don't buy the stuff you read. They could be in a situation that's very poor, or it's very poor in terms of the love that's expressed, or they could be in a family that's absolutely normal. That's why you got to ask questions. They have normal emotions, normal emotional support. But the child didn't pick it up. The child's carrying it over from a past life. So don't tell me that you read somebody that Saturn in his placement means this. It ain't true. Check it out. What I found with Saturn is if Saturn is really significantly placed and he's out by himself and he's really strong, then you can pretty much guarantee that the father was distant, the father was a big problem. But other placements of Saturn, there are all kind of problems here and there. But don't buy what the books say. Take what the books say, think about it, consider it, then review it with your client. Clients aren't going to lie to you. Then start to build your knowledge base from there. So Saturn-Venus people are commonly around somebody who's sad. One of the most common things is mom's always bummed out. So I'll be bummed out with you. Because the child wants to do anything to stay close to mom. And if mom is sad, I can't be upbeat and leave her alone like that. So I'll go suffer with her. That's very Venus Saturn. Other things, you criticized when you started to dance a little bit, you started to sing, so you learn to keep everything inside. But Venus Saturn is that. It's closing up inside, and it's not opening up, and it's dangerous. Because learning to open back up ain't that easy. Now, this is what tonight's about, is this issue right here. Watch this. When Venus and Saturn, around 2015, 2016, when he started to get on the warpath, and it was looking like, boy, he's going to run, what was happening with the planets? Let me show you. This is very deep, very important. All right, let me get it on your screen. All right, there it is. The middle chart is the birth chart. I'm going to go back in time to 3 years. Okay. Eris has just been discovered. In all this time, she was just discovered about 2003, 2005. So she reappeared on the scene around the 21st, 22nd, 23rd degree of Aries. Remembering, she spends 120 years in one sign. At that time, look who she popped up with. Uranus. Of all the people in the world, you're bringing Eris, the troublemaker, the discord planet, to the surface. Who you bring her in with? Uranus. And by the way, you put him in an Aries carriage. Woo! Bombastic. What does that point tell you? Look at that point, what it's square to. Square to Venus, Saturn. So you had a tremendous, this is like God taking the 110 out of the plug that he runs Earth with and putting in 65 million volts and plugging it back in. That's what a shock this is. So that Venus Saturn, which he hides with all the peripheral song and dance of the Jupiter and the Mars and all the bullshit of the sun and moon and all the fun stuff going on, you look down to the real center, there's a scared little boy. I would be with the Venus Saturn in Cancer. So I told you about Venus Saturn being protective. Put it in Cancer, it's triply protective now. Now, I've read stories, I don't know a lot about it, but I don't think he got the best of the best of emotional upbringing from his mother. That's not the point. His parents are not the point. This is past life stuff. This guy is playing an archetypical... Somebody's in the kitchen knocking stuff down. Thank God Laz is here. I just give him a nice cue. That keeps him busy for about an hour. She knocks some down.
I know, I can't see it though.
You'll find it. Anyhow, where was I? Anybody remember where I was? Go ahead, Marcia.
Past life stuff. Venus, Saturn, and Cancer, his past life stuff.
Okay. All right. Trump is here at the soul level to help this whole planet solve Venus-Saturn problems. When you have Venus-Saturn, let's just think about you. You got Venus-Saturn in your chart. And all your life, you're trying to dance around this shy spot. You're dancing around this timid spot. This spot that says, oh, I'm no good, really. I shouldn't go to the party. No one would like me. I don't look very pretty. All this, blah, 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 blah. What'd they break?
Nothing. She knocked the dish pan off of this attic steps upstairs.
Oh, okay. Liza comes in with her water bottle. The water bottle's working really well. Thank you. As long as they think it's not you. Now we're down to the gritty nitty. When your Uranus comes and hits it, let alone Eris with it, who's thousands of times more powerful, when Uranus hits that Venus-Saturn, what happens inside you should be feeling when the planet moves, it's what you're currently feeling versus the natal chart. The old Venus-Saturn is that old stale part of you that just stays numb and closed. When your Uranus gets to a point and hits it, you start to feel, wow, I'm feeling a little different now. I think I'll change instruments. I think I'll start changing my hair to orange. I think I'll hang out a little bit. I think I'll start talking. I think I'll just try this out, try that out, and see what happens. I'm going to start to open up. That's normal. That's what I'm trying to show you, because it took me years to learn, pounded in my head. Pounded in my head for years was, here comes the planet, I better get together, it's going to whip my butt. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. It's my Uranus approaching my Venus-Saturn. Now, if you weren't a Gemini, who traditionally have a lot of trouble with emotions anyway. Gemini men are made fun of, they're mocked all the time, because it's not easy for them to deal with emotion, because they're the third sign, and the fourth sign is when emotion comes into the zodiac. So when Uranus came into play with his Venus-Uranus, 2015, 2016, is when he should have opened his heart, allowed Uranus to come through, and start to become a human for the first time in his life. He had the choice. Stop right there. Somebody remind me that. I'm going to go right back to that place. 1980. I'm sitting with a friend of mine. Very Virgo and Leo, Virgo. Nice guy. He went to a spiritual meeting with me. And he went home and he was really cover everything up with a face, a happy face. He came back and he confided him with me. He was very sad. Why are these other people around me having emotional experiences and I can't? Very heartbreaking. He was really telling me, it's down deep. I can't have emotional experiences and it kills me. I can't have women because it gets down to emotional problems. He's got all this Virgo, he's got all this Leo, he's got all this Gemini. Well, I mean, I could have talked to him about it, but that wasn't the case. The case is here. Gemini solar energy has a hard time with emotions. So when Uranus hit his Venus-Saturn, I'm telling you, opportunities came to him for him to open his heart, and instead, he was unable to. There's your story. This is the story of the planet now. Because as Uranus was unable to take the lid off the Venus-Saturn, which is all about happiness or sadness, you remember his chart represents the planet and America and him. So what do you do when you can't get the lid open to your light? What do you do if you've never seen light? What do you do when you've had all these showgirls and all this glamour and all this stuff that you've attempted to sway yourself into that junk instead of the real thing? And now Uranus is really there. First of all, he doesn't have an astrologer. He doesn't understand what Uranus is really trying to do. Uranus was ready to start lifting off the Saturn. And I'm not stupid. When I get a client like this, I tell them we got to start lifting it off piece by piece. Go try an art class. Go try taking a friend to the movie. Let's start out slow. You start to peel off the Saturn constrictions and the Saturn fears slowly. And then you start to have victories. I tried to tell that girl that the other night on the phone. She didn't want that. She wanted me to fix it. He couldn't do it. And what happens when you can't do it and you're the baby of the world? It's your job now to put out the light everywhere. Put out the lights. The hell with the kids. Separate them from their moms. The hell with the 4,500 people. Where are you, Angel? By the 4,500 people that just died on his watch in Puerto Rico while he threw them loads of what, paper towels? How could you let 4,500 people die? Why couldn't you go in there with helicopters every 10 miles, dropping insulin, helicopter, parachuting, food items? You could have done something to help those people. We could care less because he's not getting fixed. So that's what happens with this guy, because the more he tries to keep replacing it, more crowds down in Alabama, more crowds in Ohio. See how they yay for me? The whole country's in an uproar. He keeps telling you, I can't get there. And now the marginally is really nasty because he's had it. And he's nothing to laugh at. This guy could push the button. He could do it. He could push the button. And meanwhile, it just so happens, he's doing all this while the Republican Party has come to an end with their Neptune return, as I told you. They've dissipated into nothing. They're not going to do anything. So it's up to us to be the uprising and the grassroots campaign to rebirth the place. But this is what's happening. It's because of his Venus Saturn getting hit by Uranus. Now, as Uranus went back and forth and squared it 3 times, it's now moved over into the sign of Taurus, but still those reverberations are still heard. And what are people saying about Trump? They're telling you the Venus-Saturn rules. He's not good for the environment. He's not good for the students trying to go to school, the basic human things. So now we've got to go into his chart and see, how does he keep getting away with this stuff? So let's take a look here. No, I don't want this. Okay, now what keeps him going? I did a solar return for this year after June of 18. Jupiter right there on the ascendant. There are planets protecting this guy. There are planets allowing him to continue like this. And the only reason that you can see something like that is, one, because he believes he really deserves to be the best. He really believes this. This whole thing about him talking at a 3rd grade level is really true. That's what he is. He's a little kid, but he's got all this ability to charm people right here. Just make up something. Ad hoc, at the last moment, make it up. Let him shoot bullets at your feet. Dance, boy, dance. Talk. That's what's up here with this moon and Sag and the Uranus and the sun. But eventually, the story's coming down to this. April next year, Pluto is here. Pluto is here. April next year, Pluto will stop at 23 degrees. Stop, 23 degrees. Opposite to Saturn. Pluto will stop. Go have a talk with Saturn in Cancer. And let's review, Mr. Saturn. How well do you and Venus do when Uranus was up here squaring you? How well were you? Did you loosen up? Did you become friendlier? Did you start to open your heart? Because the planets don't care about anything except for you opening your heart, becoming full of love, becoming all one, and going back to God. That's what they're about. They can't do anything else because they're part of nature. So what do you think is going to happen in April? Coming up, April, Pluto's going to stop opposite to Saturn. We'll see, when these big planets check in, Just like some big dude, big John Wayne figure dressed in black comes in your doorway and you see his silhouette. He ain't coming for a picnic. He's here to check out what you've done. Pluto has its negative reputations, but Pluto is very altruistic. Pluto wants the planet to evolve with strong people, and it will step on people who are weak. So what do you think Pluto is going to do to Saturn, Venus? I think he's going to be able to delay as long as he can, put it off, put it amongst his other 4,000 lawsuits that he's involved in, and it's going to be pushed to the Supreme Court because that's symbolic of the Pluto opposite to Saturn. He's going to have to meet his maker then. I don't mean dying. He's going to have to meet his maker in this chart. Now, some auxiliary things to look at. Watch this. In his natal charts, here's his past life chart. This is what I call the spiritual transcript. You notice that he's got the Sun and Saturn up here in Capricorn in his past lives. He's got the Venus and Mars in Aquarius. But notice this triangle. He's got Venus opposite Pluto, which means difficulty socializing, and the square sends its energy to Jupiter and Uranus, which means I can't really deal or become one-on-one with you as a real friend, so I'll take the tension from that and spill it out into this really wild, unpredictable expression of Jupiter-Uranus in the house of close relationships. Okay, well, where do you think Uranus is now? Right here. Uranus, May 1st, May, June, July, a couple months ago, it went into 0 Taurus, and it split the difference. It's now sitting opposite these 2 points. It's now sitting at the midpoint opposite. And the midpoint opposite of T-square is a very sensitive point, even though there's nothing there. And about April, May of next year, Uranus will get to 4 degrees, which is opposite Uranus itself. So I ask you, what's going to happen in this 12th harmonic? Now, the 12th harmonic, if I've learned anything about it, it's a chart where you forget about the world. It's all about you and God. It's about you and your attempts to get back to God, back to your oneness, back to that fake step when you think you stepped out and became an individual, but you really didn't. So something's going to happen to him. But the thing that we got to keep remembering is what's going on in his chart is going on in our chart. Look at how much stuff came to the surface during his reign. Look how much hidden Venus, Saturn, and Cancer has come to the surface in the last 2 years. Look how much nationalism, how much whiteism. Get these other people out of here. They're from Puerto Rico. Get them out of here. These black people, get them out of here. Go back to your own country. Get them Indians out of here. The collective symbol of Venus, Saturn means our ability to let people in. That's what it means. And we know we're not going anywhere on fixing anything with a closed heart. We know that. It can't happen. We got the mess we got because of it. And we got 5 more years until the Pluto return. You think it's going to get milder? 256 years? Pluto's starting to close in after 256 years. It's 5 years away. It's going to intensify, which is good and bad. But what's been happening to us is we're all feeling the tug on Venus-Saturn. Venus-Saturn is, I'm afraid to let you in. I'm a little timid about it. I'm a little tepid about it. What am I going to do? And I would imagine if I talked to all of you and all the people you know, I bet you everyone would tell me that everybody you know is trying. People are trying now. People are trying to open. People are trying to get past these habits. They're trying to learn from these past vulnerabilities to being scared, etc. That's how these politicians have made such progress in America scare the public. The Reds are coming. The commies are coming. Scare the public. And the cancer country went, oh, yeah, you're right. Well, you can see it now. Can't you see it all around you? People are trying now. They're realizing this. They're coming through in the opposite way. Before I open the microphones to you, I want to point out one or two more things. So we go into his natal chart again, and we flip over to the 10th harmonic. Isn't that an interesting one? I don't show very often. The 10th harmonic is the Capricorn harmonic. So therefore, the 10th harmonic is what I look at when I want to see somebody with their Humpty Dumpty status. What is your status? And if Mr. Trump is anything, he's an image that's not real of having a status. He's on top of the wall. Humpty Dumpty's on top of the wall. And when things happen to this chart, it reflects in your social status. Look at this. Saturn in Taurus, Neptune in Taurus, Uranus in Taurus, Taurus rising. You think he's going to be changed by anything somebody's going to say? Okay. You got the moon at 2 degrees of Cancer. You got a 24 degrees Virgo. But the significant thing about this chart is the eclipse we just had was at 20 degrees of Cancer. This is why the eclipse on July 12th was within 1 degree. The sun and moon were here. And who was over there? Pluto. That's why you got to be smarter when you hear these people. Oh, it's a red moon. Oh, it's an aqua moon. It's a paisley moon. What matters is the sun and moon were eclipsing here. I don't care who could see it. But Pluto was there. They were all 20 degrees. And they're all opposite his sun. So you see tremendously grave pressure now being put on his status as a self in terms of his social position. This is why people are turning on him and saying, we got to get this guy out of here because we got to get him out of the position that he's in. And see, remember now, he's in that position where whenever he's questioned, he just puts more Mars in his Mars and Leo and fires. So that's the story. That's the story, in my opinion. The story is the Venus-Saturn. I understand he's hurt. I understand he's deeply hurt. I understand he feels like his favorite word, unfair, but not treated fair. Everybody's out to get me. Oh, I'm a victim, I'm a victim, I'm a victim. I understand it. But where I don't get off, where I draw the line, is when you take your BS and you start affecting thousands of people or your own little ego. I don't want to hear it anymore. That's the story I got. And I think we will say goodnight to our YouTubers and have some private discussion if you would like. Thank you, YouTubers. Join us every week at starself.com/unplugged. That'll get you in with us on 8 o'clock on Thursdays. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it.